Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. Two easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got a good friend coming back. Doug Vermeeren is here. So I could go through everything, Doug, but let's see if I can get it just from memory. So actor, director, writer, stuntman, producer. Did I get all of them?
Close, good enough.
I told you last time, that's a lot of hats.
Oh, we do a lot. Yeah, I'm busy, that's for sure.
You are busy. So we did our first interview last May, if you can believe it. It's been over a year. And we were talking then, you had a Star Wars script.
Yeah, well, we have, you know what, we haven't had a chance to do much with that, but we've got a really cool science fiction one that's in development right now. And then I've signed on to be in a show called Alien Horde coming up too. So
yeah,
we've got a lot of
that's one I thought you were talking about was Alien Horde.
Yeah, no, that's actually the Mahals. I can't remember. I'm going to butcher this whole interview now. I apologize. I can't remember the name of the gentleman that's writing it and directing it, but the Mahals are producing it. And they've got me in the loop with that. So
let's just start. Let's start there. So what is Alien Horde about? What's your role in it?
Well, I'm not allowed to say too much, but what I can tell you is basically it's humankind against the aliens again, and we better do it or we're all getting destroyed. So I think a good way to describe it would be if you look at things like Independence Day or films War of the Worlds, these kind of things, but we're a military force this time, and we're ready to deal with them. So maybe even a bit of like Starship Troopers, if you think about that.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of sounds like that. So we're a little better prepared than we normally are.
Heck yeah, we're gonna do it this time. Teach them aliens a lesson, right? You know what I don't understand though? You know what I don't understand is how come they always have the aliens be like little, like vicious, crazy aliens? Why don't they give us like ET, just like a whole pile of our commandos against ET and a few of his buddies?
Is there no kind aliens out there?
Yeah, I don't know. Like seriously, maybe that's why they're staying away. They see how we portray them in film, and they're like, you know, those guys, they're not going to give us any sympathy when we show up, right? No. It's like,
no,
that could be it.
ET's the only alien I can remember that was friendly.
Well, except for in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, remember those guys did.
All right, yeah, that one was pretty. That was pretty.
Yeah, they were pretty
harmless.
Yeah, but everybody else, we kind of like have it in for them. By the way, something funny is I've got another alien show coming up. Also not allowed to say much, but it's for TV, and that'll be kind of interesting as well. And of course,
what's the platform?
I believe it's just regular broadcast television, like cable television.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I did do another one, which is kind of like a documentary thing called what is it? Unsolved Paranormal Files, and I'm the host of it. And that's on a streaming service called Net Indie right now. Yeah. And I just watched the episode actually last night of me talking about Area 51. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they did a good job on it.
I know you're nerdy, so you're
super nerdy.
Yeah.
Nerdy in capital letters.
That I would have a blast with that type of show. So do you get to... You doing Area 51, or are you doing like
no
Bigfoot, those type of things?
Bigfoot they're doing. So they've got, I know they're talking about like telekinesis and like parapsychology and different supernatural stuff. Bigfoot is an episode. Area 51 is an episode. I think there's one that's on the Blue Book and Majestic 12. Probably in along with that, there'll probably be something on the Men in Black and stuff. But they've got like 13 episodes, and I've done a few of them so far, but there's still more to come. So I haven't seen all the scripts. We'll get a chance, I guess. Right?
You know, we've got our monsters here in West Virginia. You could come and do.
What have you got?
We've got Mothman. We've got
yes,
Flatwoods
Mothman Prophecies. Actually, I remember that show.
Yeah. We've got several. There's I don't remember if you remember back in the National Enquirer days, but they used to do these stories on Bat Boy.
Oh yes, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, that
right
was
next to Elvis was seen at Burger King.
That's
right. I gotcha.
And then the one I would love to see you do a show on is the Flatwoods Monster.
Interesting.
It kind of looks like a burning candle is kind of how it's shaped.
That would be interesting. Sure, why not? I'd also like to do like the Skinwalkers and Chupacabra and all that kind of stuff. That'd be neat, but we'll see. I don't get to always decide that. I make suggestions, and then they kind of look at me and go, yeah, that'd be good, and then they go do something else.
Well, none of it would be bad. Like, I would find all of it interesting.
And people are interested in the subject matter, so why not, right?
Why not? Yeah. You never just do one project. You've always got like a dozen Hercules.
True. It seems that way.
Because aren't you involved in Mafia Spies?
Yeah, actually, that's on Paramount Plus right now. It just came out over the summer. But I played the lead FBI. Actually, I did 3 kind of roles in it. The main role I do is I'm the lead FBI guy. But the funny thing is, if you watch the series in the very, very first, like, literal minute, you've got this close-up of me among this group looking up at Sputnik, right? Like, because the satellite's there. And then I don't know if it's just that they didn't have enough cast members or whatever, but they dressed me up also as a Cuban revolutionary. So I think it's an episode, I want to say 4 or 5 or something, where these Cuban guys are coming to... I can't remember. Well, I don't want to say too much about what we're doing, but anyway, so I get busted, but they put a fake mustache on me and dress me in the fatigues and all this, and I get in some trouble with that. But primarily, I'm the FBI lead FBI agent that's chasing Johnny.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I told my wife, I'm like, that looked like Doug standing there looking up. I was like, but he's supposed to be the FBI guy.
Yeah, they threw me in there a few times, and there's probably even a few that I didn't even spot, but I know I'm in there a bunch of different times. I just specifically remember those days putting on the costumes, and but the FBI guys, clearly, like, I'm in all of them, but there's a few that I can't remember. Maybe that is me.
Well, and the show, it's dealing with a lot of stuff, but it's dealing with like the plot to kill Castro, and it's got a bunch of stuff, but it's also got a really good cast.
It does have a good cast, and you know, the thing that I was, I guess, attracted to for that project is I always have loved that time in American history. It's been really fascinating, right? But it really caused me to rethink a lot of things, and a lot of things I thought I understood, I got a question now. Like, obviously they talk about things like the assassination of JFK in there, and the conspiracy theories that we've all believed over the years, they might not be so far off when you see it. And also his indiscretions, like his affairs and things with female, that's pretty interesting. And even just the connection to the mob. Like, I'd always heard that the mob got, JFK elected and all of these things. But when you see Mafia Spies, you can kind of see how that really has some truth to it. And it's weird, right?
Well, it's a really good show. And it's at least based on true events.
Right?
Yeah, it's,
well, they claim that a lot of
about 2/3 of the way through it, I think, right now.
Yeah, well, what I read about it is Thomas Maher, the guy who wrote the book, because it came out as a book first, that he based a lot of the things that are in that book and in the series on newly unclassified documents. So there's actually CIA and FBI documents that back up a lot of these new things that we now know. So I don't know, right?
I'm curious if our government keeps stuff from us now like it did back then.
100%. I'm sure they do.
Because wonder what comes out 50 years from now.
Right. Right.
what's going on there? Because they've unclassified a lot of stuff that
Right.
when I was growing up, especially with the alien stuff, all that stuff was kept pretty under wraps, and at least we're starting to get some of that out. But we're getting more info on Kennedy and a lot of those
Right.
situations that were there. Those were big things at the time, but it just makes me curious. I wonder what things are happening now that we're being shielded from.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin to guess, but my suspicion is if stuff like that was revealed back in the day, the public would have gone nuts. They would have had an outrage. And I'm sure the same stuff that they're hiding today is equally as disturbing.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
I'm sure that I'm sure there's even all kinds of under the table deals being done, everything from some of the wars and politics, like the allegiances and stuff that are going on, that we're like, there's no way we'd want to give money to Russia, but we probably have. And there's
I'm
no
sure
way that we're right. All these things. And even, I don't know. I mean, in Canada, where I'm primarily from, there's a lot of concern and contention over a lot of immigrant problems lately.
Yeah.
And
Well, same here.
even yeah, and I think a lot of the deals that are being done under the table there would be surprising to us. Again, I don't want to turn this into a political thing, because honestly, I don't know the answers. I just know I'm being fooled by our government.
That's right.
But I would imagine there's some very upsetting things there that we'll make a movie about one of these
Well,
days.
you did the episode. That's right. We'll make a lot of movies about them, I'm sure. But
Right.
you did the Area 51 episode. Did it
Right.
change your thoughts on that? Did it make you more inclined to believe that there was an actual place, a crash ship, that type of thing, or did it kind of prove that wasn't true to you?
Well, I definitely don't think it was a weather balloon like they claimed.
Right.
And I'm not sure that it was necessarily extraterrestrial, but it might have been. I guess one of the weirdest things that I didn't know about this, I'd heard they found the debris and, there were hieroglyphics on it and they could bend it, but it would reshape itself. And I heard about all those stories, and that the military put out a press release that they later pulled back. And I'd heard all that. But what I didn't hear, and again, these are just like hearsays, right? Like, we don't have some of these people to talk to.
That's right.
But there was a gentleman who ran a funeral parlor, and he was approached to find the best way to preserve small humanoid bodies that were the size of children. And I guess the military also purchased some hermetic style coffins from him to put these bodies in. And I don't know. I mean, if you set up a weather balloon and then later they said it was a dummy attached to a weather balloon, why would we need to have a coffin that is hermetically sealed to put one of these bodies in if they're just mannequins? So I don't know. And who knows? That guy could be making that up too, right? But
well, that's it. It's gotten so convoluted over time. I'm not sure what's actually true.
And one of the stories was there was a nurse at some hospital who also got a look at something, and she did a sketch on it, but it doesn't, like, we don't really have any of that stuff. It's just what people are saying. And then there was apparently somebody in the military that was told, don't look under those tarps. So what did he do? He looked under him, and then he claims that he's seen all kinds of bodies and stuff too. But like, who are these people, right? Yeah. It makes for a good story.
Where are they?
and my thing is if I had been near the crash site and then you invite me to the Boy Scout camp to tell ghost stories, guess what I'm talking about that night, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Here's something that's maybe just a bit weird. So my aunt, when she was 16, her and a friend stumbled across a dead body on a lake on the beach, and I guess the person must have just drowned. There was probably no foul play or whatever. But every time she tells that story, it's creepier, and there's a green glow around the body, and there's seaweed that was wrapped around their neck, and all these things. Like, the story gets really good. So I'm wondering, just the nature of humans.
That's right.
The more we tell a story, it's that big fish kind of tale, right? Like, it just gets better.
Oh, I totally believe that.
And can you imagine now telling that story around a campfire, and some other guy says, I was abducted by aliens once. Well, now you two are in a competition to say, oh, really? Well, let me tell you what happened in my story. Then he's going to say, yeah, well, they angle probed me. He goes, well, I'll tell you what they did to me. Like, you can picture these guys, and suddenly by the time they're done, they've got the biggest story about the whole thing and everything else. So I don't know. It's just human nature, I think. But it is funny.
It is, and you're 100% right, and which makes it so difficult to tell what's actually the truth. Same thing with the abductions. You know, are these people actually getting abducted? Are they taken somewhere?
Or are they just taking gummies at home?
Right.
Right? Like that could be it too.
Totally
right? Like no kidding. Oh.
Have you seen the movie? It came out in like the 80s or 90s. It's called Fire in the Sky.
Yep, Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton story.
That's right.
Yep,
that's right.
Definitely. Yeah,
and that one was pretty well done. Like it'll make you think a little bit, but who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
Yeah, and again, I don't know because I've never met Travis. I've never read the book. I just saw the movie, and then I've seen a couple of interviews, a little bit here and there with him online. And there's people that think he's totally legit and they believe everything that he said, and then there's others that poke holes in the story. But I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there.
I mean, the fun part's
all I know
to believe it's
he's
true.
Right. All I know is he made a lot of money off it.
He did.
Right.
Which, to be fair, if I had gotten abducted, I'd at least want to make some money off of it.
Well, yeah, for real. I mean, just your psychiatry bills alone would be astronomical, right?
Yeah.
So I actually really liked the movie The Fourth Kind as well. I don't know if you saw that.
I have. Yeah, very good.
And that also raised a lot of flags. A lot of people think that she actually murdered her kids or whatever, murdered her daughter or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, it's weird. We'll never have an answer.
Anyway,
something to think about. Yeah.
I kind of.
You know what's funny?
Go ahead.
This is the first podcast that we've ever talked about aliens and stuff. This is pretty fun. I don't know how I feel about it legit, but I do tons of research because I play these kind of characters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I've always had a fascination. My grandfather he never talked about it, but he always had a library of books about alien stuff. And I was little, so I never asked him, but I'd read the books.
Right.
I read the books. So it always kind of had a fascination. Same thing with the Bigfoots and all of the creatures. My opinion of that, I don't know. There's so many things out there we don't know. I think it's unlikely that we haven't found these creatures if they're actually out there somewhere.
Maybe Bigfoot is an alien, and that's why we don't see him.
Maybe that's why.
Does a little walking around, gets spotted, takes off. Because if you think about it, we've never found bones or scat or
that's it. That's
nothing, right?
I mean, would it surprise you if there was, say, some type of dinosaur-like creature living in an ocean or a lake somewhere?
Well, here's the deal. There are animals that are closely related to dinosaurs, like crocodiles, they say haven't changed very much, and sharks haven't changed very much, and a lot of those kind of reptiles and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I think that there probably are, but I just don't think our environment can sustain the big dinosaurs. Like even like a Komodo dragon, and they're still probably like relatively closely related to dinosaurs. But you know what? I'm not a scientist, so who's ever going to put comments in the bottom here and say, you don't know a dang thing about this?
You don't know nothing.
You're right. I don't know a dang thing about this.
I'm still waiting, though. Somebody's going to go into a cave somewhere and find something.
Well, that could be a cool movie, too,
something that we don't know anything about.
Well, I think Jason Statham did, didn't he? Is that called The Meg? Isn't that show? he's the guy we need to bring onto this interview, and he can maybe tell us about his experiences with it.
On Jason's behalf, I'll say, well, it did well enough to get a sequel.
Well, then there must be something true about it.
There must be something to it. So I wanted to mention, love seeing you on Billy the Kid and Joe Pickett.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we had fun doing that. Those are great movies. And you know what's funny is because my hometown, where I'm originally from, is where they shot those. And so I just happened to be back in the old neighborhood and got a chance to participate. So it was pretty cool.
You got to be a regulator on Billy the Kid, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, doing all kinds of gunfights. In fact, it's really funny. I just got approached the day before yesterday about another cowboy movie, but I've got one coming out this year. So I don't know if you found this in the info as you're preparing for the interview, but I was the bad guy in Cynthia Rothrock's last movie, Black Creek.
Yeah, Cynthia's coming on the program too.
She is super awesome.
Yeah, that was Black Creek, right?
Yeah, Black Creek. So I played like Richard Norton and I are kind of the main bad guys. I basically my character. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but Cynthia can come and chase me later. But I play a guy named Hank Winslow, and on the Wild West there, I run sort of the gambling and the fighting ring, and I'm like over all that kind of stuff on behalf of Richard Norton's character. So I'm kind of like his agent when he's away, and I make people like beat the tar out of each other in this ring. And so I put Cynthia in quite a few fights. And then at the end, I put her up against Richard. And I won't tell you how it all ends, but I end up getting kicked in the face by Cynthia Rothrock, and it was awesome.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, she's
Yeah.
basically the female Chuck Norris.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, definitely. And you know what the crazy thing is she has still got all the moves, man. She is so good. And like just everything that she's done, like it's just it's amazing, right? Like she's just such a legend in the stuff she's done.
Oh
So
gosh, yeah. And she's done so much.
oh yeah, yeah. And you know what? The thing that surprised me a lot is she does so much of her own stunt work and everything. Like they've got a stunt team that works with her and the other actors, make sure nobody gets hurt. But she's in there. She's doing it, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I know I've
Yeah,
always been a fan of hers, and she had so many movies coming out in the 80s and 90s, and she was
right.
always the badass in them.
Oh, and she's still a badass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty great. Now, I thought you were going to mention you're playing Lucifer in a Western.
Oh yes, also Unnatural Part 2. I guess the reason I jumped to Black Creek is because that comes out on October 9th. So we're literally just
Oh, it's here. Yeah.
yeah, it's basically here. But yeah, I played Lucifer in Unnatural Part 2. We shot that in Kentucky. It's funny because the director
Where
of
in
that I
Kentucky
worked
were you?
what was it, Danville.
Oh, Danville. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually did that'll be my third time to Kentucky. I did another one near I'm trying to remember the little town that it was now. Shoot, I'm gonna forget. Everybody in Kentucky is gonna be like, "We hate you. You forgot." It was near Louisville, but it was another little town that was near there.
Oh, is
And
it Lexington, maybe?
we were in Lexington for part of it,
Yeah.
but we moved around for a few things.
So there
But
was some little places in there.
yeah, but it was a scary movie called The Boy from Below. And then I also shot a
Right.
Christmas movie in Kentucky with the same director who did Unnatural Part 2. And that was a Christmas movie that comes out this year called Homeless for the Holidays, where I actually, am this rich guy with a mansion or whatever, these people who are homeless, more or less, show up on my door and say that they're related to me. So I let them in. Why not? Right. So, but it's a really kind of heartwarming story. And I thought it was quite good. But yeah, the last time I was
Don't you
in
have
Kentucky.
is there there's a wrestler in that one?
Yes, actually, Al Snow. Al Snow's in Unnatural too. We seem to be following each other around. That dude's so cool. In fact, it was funny when we did the homeless for the holidays. I had one day where I got hit in the face with a football, hit in the face with a pie, and fell out of a Christmas tree, bringing it over onto both me and Al Snow. So that was pretty
Well,
funny.
is that one a comedy?
Yes.
Okay, good. Is it coming
Yeah.
out this Christmas?
I think it comes out November, just before Christmas.
Oh, it's
and
awesome.
We'll probably be all over the place. But what's funny is I don't really do a lot of comedies, so it was really different for me. I don't consider myself a comedy guy, but I had a super good time doing it.
I bet you're pretty good at comedy.
I don't know. They haven't really given me the chance so much to
I think
prove it there, but I'd love to do it. Why not?
At least the dry humor, you could totally do that.
Yeah, why not? Right. And that like the physical humor too. Like I said, they hit me in the face with the pie and the football and the tree and all that stuff. So I guess take the licking and keep on ticking. Why not? Right.
Well, and so you mentioned The Boy from Below. That has Dee Wallace in it.
Yeah, Dee Wallace. I actually was not on set with her, so I didn't get a chance to know her at all. But yeah, I'm curious to see how the movie works.
She's pretty great. She's been on a program before. She's still pretty sharp.
Yeah, well, I did see pictures from the set of when they had her out there, and she was just looked like she was super delightful to work with and everything else. I just hadn't met her. Like I came in and then I was off to do what did I do right after that? I had to do a movie in Las Vegas right after that.
Yeah.
So I was just there for the stuff I needed to do and then got out of there.
Yeah, that your all your stuff always sounds so interesting to me. You're playing like, are you actually playing a version of the devil in the Unnatural too, or is it
I
just
am,
named
and
Lucifer?
yeah, it's a bit weird because I always thought that Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and was the same guy,
Yeah.
right? But the director, he has other ideas. So basically, what we are is we're kind of like the demonic force, and Lucifer is the leader, and Beelzebub is the muscle, and Satan is just this kind of whimsical, almost like Willy Wonka kind of guy. So, but it was interesting, and I had a really fun time doing it. But I mean, everybody's got a different interpretation. I'm doing another show coming up, and I got to be careful how much I say about it. Called the Baphomet Seance, and
Ooh.
in that one, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, all those, it is the same guy. So everyone's just got a different interpretation of how
It
they
is
do
kind of
these things.
interesting to think, well, what if it's, 5 or 6 different guys that we all just assume is the same person or demon or whatever.
Right? Yeah, it's you never know, right? I never met the guy
I kind of
myself,
like
so
the dealing with the supernatural and demonic forces, but in Western
right.
time. That's interesting.
It is interesting. Kind of reminded me a bit of like Jonah Hex,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If you remember
exactly.
that,
Yeah, oh
right?
yeah, yeah, a comic book guy. So my best friend, big Jonah Hex fan, all the way
Me
up
too.
through. Yeah, yeah. Did you read
Yeah,
him when he went to the future and it was just Hex?
I didn't read that. In fact, most of the reading that I've done for Jonah Hex, it's funny. So I'm working on. I got to be careful how much I say about this too, but I'm working on a show kind of like John Wick in the West.
Oh, I like that.
And it's called like what other name could it have? But it's called Cowboy Bloodbath. And yeah, of course it is, right? And so I kind of
Seems
came
like a
up with the
movie
idea.
that Cynthia would be
Well,
in.
this is it. I came up with the idea when I was working with Cynthia on that set. Like, what would it be to just really go nuts with this? And so, we're working on it. We've got a first draft on the script done, but we'll kind of see where it goes from there, right? But yeah, it's
Awesome.
kind of that's what led me to read Jonah Hex. Why not?
Yeah. Well, Jonah Hex that's some good comics there. They're pretty,
Definitely.
and not just comic books. They're pretty good westerns.
I watched the Josh Brolin one that they
Yeah.
did with Megan Fox and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty good. It did not get the recognition I think that it probably deserved when it came out.
Yeah, it did.
But
I thought it was pretty well done too, but yeah, it didn't really do
yeah,
much at the box office.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But this is it. And you know what? I've always wondered this too because I was chatting with another movie friend of mine. You see, they always take really big hits and they remake them.
Yeah.
Why don't they take a movie that maybe wasn't a big hit or that failed at the
Yes.
box office and remake it? Because, like, obviously it was a good idea. Obviously, this is something that people could get behind. It just maybe wasn't executed super well.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that all movies deserve a second chance
No,
like
but
that, but
some
I think
of them do.
there's a lot that should.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
one in the Bonfire of the Vanities, isn't that the one
All
everybody
right.
throws out there when they're like, why don't they remake this one? This because
Right.
the source material, great. The movie,
Right.
not executed very well.
Yeah, and we can't really say that with things like either Pluto Nash or Cool World. Like, I mean, maybe not that.
Yeah,
Right?
those I think we're okay just leaving alone.
Right. And I'm trying to remember what that one
Pluto Nash.
that Matt Damon did where they shrunk the people and then they lived in these little boxes. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah. What was
oh,
he
I
was
can't
like
remember the
he
name
was
of it,
like
but
a Gulliver's Travel type of thing, but modern.
yeah, such a great premise, and it could have been so great. They even had like Kristen Wiig in it, and I thought it was going to be a comedy when I went in.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But after seeing it, I was like, man, I just felt like there were so many missed opportunities with a really neat premise.
I forgot all
Right?
about that one, and you're right.
Yeah.
It going in, looking at the cast and the premise, I was expecting a pretty good movie. But you're
Right.
right too that I thought comedy. Just
Right.
because of
That's
the
what I thought it
actors
would be a
that were in
comedy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And no disrespect to those filmmakers, but for me, what it felt like is they ran out of money and ran out of days. And so they basically, whatever footage they could quickly get, they assembled it so they could meet the obligation to the studio and put the
Yeah.
movie out. That's really what I felt like when I walked out. I was like, it just didn't work. Right.
Didn't flow
So,
very well.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there may be more to it. There may be more to it.
Oh, there usually is. There was probably
Right.
something going on behind the scenes, something.
Right.
You
Well, I
never
also
know.
noticed, and I'm a big Matt Damon fan. I think he's just incredible, but he didn't really do much promotion for it either, or get behind it very much. So I wonder if he kind of felt the same way. Like I mean, honestly, if I'm being sincere, I've had movies that I've done that after I've seen them, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to say anything mean about it, but I'm not
I'm
going
not
to go
going
to
to
my
tell
way to
people
like,
about it either.
right. Right? So we got to be careful. Actually, it's funny, just a hilarious story, and I got to be careful to not give too many details because the director, if he ever listens to it, he'll be like, "That was my damn movie." But there was a movie that I did a couple of years ago, and they sent me a copy of it to watch prior to the screening and premiere and all this stuff of it. And so I sat down with my son and we watched it, and oh, we both hated it. It was just terrible. It was terrible. Anyways, they said you got to come to this premiere and all this stuff, and you're kind of committed to coming. So I was like, I guess. Anyways, so I showed up there, and everybody was all smiley and happy. You know, you walk the red carpet, the whole bit. Then we sit down. They had a theater filled with about 400 people in it. We watched it, and those people liked it. Like the whole audience liked it. So I'm so glad because I don't want to say something negative about a movie just because I didn't like it, because someone else may enjoy it. Like they could have a really positive emotional experience about it, right?
Yeah.
So I've kind of learned over the years with experiences like that publicly I like every movie I've done. It's 100%. I've loved every movie. I've loved every minute of it. Everybody I've worked with, they've been absolutely awesome. But privately, sometimes I'm like, if I got a choice on a Friday night to put in a DVD and it's that or something else, I'm getting something else for
We're getting
sure.
something else.
Right.
That's pretty funny. I wanted to ask you about the werewolf movie.
Oh, Bikers versus Werewolves.
Yeah. I mean, just the
Yeah.
title, I'm like, well, that's one I'd watch.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know when it's coming out, but I had a really fun time doing it. In fact, that might have even been the movie in Vegas that I left Boy from Below to go and do. It might have been. I can't remember now. But I play a werewolf hunter in it, and we had just super fun time. In fact, that's the Mahals as well doing the Alien movie. But that's probably one of the biggest reasons I decided to come back and work with the Mahals again, because it was just such a fun set, and we had so many neat.
How could it not be bikers fighting werewolves? I mean, I'd watch that.
Yeah, of course we all would. And yeah, and so many cool actors in that too. We had a lot of really great people. I became good buddies with so many people on that film that we've kept in touch with and stuff. And
Well,
it's just great.
how were the werewolves? Were they pretty scary, pretty believable, or were they more silly side?
Well, there was a couple cool things. Now, keeping in mind when I see them on the set, I don't see them in the way that they are for people at home, because they're not lit, the sound effects aren't there, the movements are changed. But they are tall dudes that were in those suits.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they're custom made for that, professionally made by costume makers and people that do that thing. So they looked really cool. But I imagine, you know, in the context of film, they're going to look really frightening, right?
Yeah,
but they definitely look
that
super
was kind
cool.
of what I was getting at was, you know, how they actually came across when you're there in person. Because I'm assuming,
Right.
but you always see like the set leaks, the photo leaks, and then everybody's like hammering somebody because they look terrible and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but that's not how they're going to look.
Right.
You're not seeing it after it's made up. You're just
Well,
seeing
and I've had that too with different props that people have given me on a movie set. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, this is your weapon. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I see it in the film and it's like, perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, I did a film called The Awakening a while ago where I had a sword that's supposed to magically appear in my hand. They gave me a doweling stick, like just a stick. I'm like, that's not a sword. But anyways, it looks good in the film. But I will tell you about the werewolves. This is kind of funny. So during one of the breaks, I was chatting with one of the guys who's a werewolf, and he popped his helmet off and stuff, and he was just dripping with sweat. He's like, you wouldn't believe how nasty this suit is after like 2-3 weeks in this suit. He's like, just that alone is scary. So I can tell you that those guys in the suits, if anything, they sure got a workout. That's for sure.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I bet they did. So, okay. So the last one I wanted to ask you about was, and it's mostly because of the cast, but Skate to Hell.
Skate to Hell. That was a crazy fun movie.
Because you got Eric Roberts. You know, we're friends with Eric. Todd Bridges is in there. Jenny
Right. Different Strokes.
Yeah, it's loaded.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun. Actually, one of my favorite memories of that film, and it was just silly. So I'm originally from Canada. In fact, today I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, is where you're talking to me at. And when we got to set, they had all these little Canadian kind of jokes because it's a horror comedy, right?
Right.
Jokes about, what is it, poutine, and jokes about maple syrup, and jokes about. And so I said, if you guys really want to do this right, I'm going to play him as a French Canadian. Is that cool? And so the whole time I'm speaking with a French accent like this, and everything is in French, right? And so I'm throwing in all these jokes, and they just thought that was pretty funny. And a lot of the silliness in the film we pushed to the extreme, and so it was a good time. And actually, I became really, really good friends with Douglas Tate on that. Doug Tate,
Oh yeah.
who's done Mike Myers and
Yeah.
and Jason and stuff. In fact, he's going to come out and do a project for me, and it was just such a funny set. And I joke with actually I can see it right here from it, but actually if he's gonna watch, I got to do this for fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Doug Tate was walking along, and somewhere he set down his hat, and he set it down on the set, and he couldn't find it. And he's got no hair on the top of his head, so he's burning like crazy. So before we discovered this, I gave him one of my hats, right? And I said, I got an extra ball cap, keep it. And so he wore it, and then I went and I found this actually on the road, and I just put it on and was wearing it. And he goes, got my damn hat, whatever, right? And so we traded hats, and I still got his, he still got mine. So I think that's kind of a funny joke.
I love that.
It's got a like skull on it. It's still got probably dirt from the road. I haven't even watched it, but yeah, he and I became pretty good buddies. So just lots of fun things like that happen on set from time to time. So if he's watching,
you must be pretty good to work with, because every movie you do, you end up making friends on it.
Well, I think it's interesting. Really, I think I'm not the only one that does that. Like, if you think about the setting of movies, it's kind of almost like you go to summer camp. You guys are creating something together. You become a family together. You work hard together, long hours together, sometimes crazy conditions. And then you all kind of go away. But then when you see each other at different events later on, or you connect later on, it's like bumping into your old pals. Like, I was just at a red carpet event, and Cynthia was there, Patrick Fitzpatrick, Don the Dragon Wilson, and a few other people from there. And it was just like immediately we gravitated right back to each other, and hugs and smiles and stories, right? So it happens that way on a lot of movie sets for me.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, if you're going to do this as a living, you might as well have a good time doing it.
Yeah. And the thing that I find is, like, I know people, like, I was just actually at my brother's house last night, and his wife was saying, have you ever bumped into anybody that's like a total diva and super hard to work with and all this kind of stuff? And the reality is not really. I've had great experiences with pretty much everybody I've been to. Like, obviously everybody's there to do a job. Everybody's professional. We treat each other with respect. But at the same time, we have funny moments sometimes, things that kind of bond us together forever. In fact, one of the craziest things, speaking about Black Creek, is Arizona is where we shot it, right outside of Tucson. During the day, boiling hot in the Arizona sun. But as soon as the sun dips down, it went freezing cold. So what do? Under my costume, I literally was wearing 3 pairs of long underwear. So as I get there on set for the first hour, I was just boiling. But for the rest of the night, I was grateful, right? And so that's a story that all of us now share in common. We couldn't believe how cold it gets at night in the desert. It just gets crazy cold.
I've always heard that, but I've never been in the desert to experience it.
Well, you know what I think it is? I don't think there's anything there to hold the heat, right? Whereas if you're in a forest, the trees are still giving off the heat they receive during the day. But if you think of what sand really is, it's like quartz or glass. It doesn't hold any heat.
You're right.
So the minute sun goes down, it's cold. And I never believed that myself until then. But what was also funny is after the first day or so of shooting, we went by the Walmart to go pick up long underwear, and half the cast was there as well. It was hilarious. We cleaned out their long underwear section, right? I had another movie that was also really funny. This was a funny experience too. I was filming this movie in Halifax, Canada. And we were, it was a small little area, small little town. So there was only one hotel. That meant everybody, cast and crew, were all staying at this one hotel. Well, some joker in the middle of the night pulled the fire alarm And so everybody went out in their underwear in the parking lot, and you could see everybody in their night clothes and crazy hair and all that kind of weird stuff, pillow head and all this. But you could also see who had coupled up, who came together.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of funny, kind of interesting to see,
Because you
right?
know that stuff happens all the time.
Of course it does. Actually, it's funny because I was reading Carrie Fisher's book, Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And she talked about how on the set she was hooking up with Harrison Ford and other people and blah, blah, blah. And, right? But I mean, that's
You
her
always
business,
assume.
but it happens,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, anytime you put humans in close contact with each other, that's what's going to happen.
Right. And I won't lie, but I also won't mention any names. If I've had like a romantic lead or someone, we've like spent more time together after out at the set too, and we've become close that way, right? In fact, there was one girl that I dated for quite a long time, and we met on a movie set. That's how it happened, right?
Well, I mean, other people meet, their relationships at work. So why would this be any different?
Well, 100% true. 100% true, right? So
I mean, if you're spending all your time on a set, then that's probably where you're going to meet somebody.
I would think, yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, sometimes as we're doing movies, like normal people, if there is such a thing, they don't really get our world. Where somebody who's from that world kind of gets it. So I was dating for a while Ari Damaris, and she's such a sweetheart. But she was on like Supernatural, Supergirl, Lost in Space, all these kind of shows, and she's just a sweetheart. But the thing that really made it so it didn't work for us is I would go off one direction to do shows, she'd go off to do something else, and we'd barely see each other. I think we dated each other for maybe 4 months, and we could have seen each other possibly like maybe a dozen times.
Yeah, it's not much.
Like in that whole time.
Yeah, that's not much. Yeah, if you're only seeing somebody once a week or once every couple of weeks, that's tough to maintain a relationship.
100%.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
For sure.
And what's funny is I was doing a lot of stuff in Europe while she was in North America, so even trying to call each other with the time change didn't work. But she's a sweetheart. We're still friends, but it didn't work. In fact, she's got some new guy, and they're super happy, and I'm super excited for her. Right?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, thank you for taking the time. I always love talking with you because you've got so much going on. You can't hardly cover it in an hour. You'll have to come back for a third one.
Well, I will, and I'll tell you also why, because remember I was mentioning that Seance movie?
Yeah.
There's something very peculiar about it. I can't say too much now, but it's one of the most weird, bizarre horror movies that I think you've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, you got to come back when that one's ready to come out so we can actually talk about it.
Right, and let me maybe just give you something to think about. So in writing this script and working this film, it's actually kind of a found footage, but not in the weird wobbly camera style, but something that has elements that were from a film in 1976 that people tried to ban because it's got various how should we say, hypnotism elements to it.
Yeah.
And I'm even going to say maybe magic illusions or whatever. And in the end, you feel like you're talking to the devil himself. It's a seance, an instructional seance video on how to talk to the devil. And it's creepy as
I was going to say, that is terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying. And so, and like I said, there's things that are created in it that, no kidding, there's even a warning at the beginning saying some of the things you're about to experience are in fact scientific, not demonic, but we'll let you decide.
That's right.
Right?
When does that come out? Is that going to be?
I believe that should be October of this year as well, just before Halloween.
Okay, so it's coming soon.
Yeah. But
yeah, that's exciting.
It's a weird one, weird in capital letters, I'll tell you. Yeah. So
well, Doug, thank you. This has been terrific as always. Before I let you go, though, run through all your social media.
Yeah, so basically my name, Douglas Vermeeren. On Instagram, make sure you get the one with the blue check mark. I'm on TikTok, but I think it's Douglas Vermeeren with a number 2 behind it because one of my really wonderful fans went and stole my name before I got there. And then, of course, on Facebook, it's Douglas Vermeeren. LinkedIn, Douglas Vermeeren. I think on Twitter, I did just Doug Vermeeren, but you'll find me around, and
you're
I'm there.
easy to find.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you just pick a random movie and look, there's a decent chance you're in it.
Well, obviously, some of my favorite movies, I didn't find me in it, darn. But maybe one of these days, like again, I would love to do some of the big franchises, and like I'm a big nut for superhero stuff and
It's
James Bond
coming.
stuff and all that. So
It's coming.
yeah,
I know it is. You work too hard. It's going to all pay off. I know it will.
thank you,
Yeah, this
thank
has
you.
been great, Doug. Please reach back out. Let's do it again.
100% we will.
All right, hold on one second. Doug Vermeeren, probably one of the hardest working people in showbiz. And we've had a few, we've had Ed Asner on, we've had Eric Roberts and Dee Wallace, and some of these prolific actors that just seem to be in everything. Doug fits on that list. He works his ass off. He's and talented. I mean, he's an incredibly talented actor. Equally talented as a stunt person. He's if you want to know more about his stunt work, listen to our interview that we did last May. We talked quite a bit about his work, stunt work, and he's gotten hurt several times, and he's just got some really funny, harrowing stories on that. So check out our first interview with Doug. I think you'll really enjoy that. And he talks about how he got into the business. It's a fun interview, just like this one was. I hope you enjoyed that. Appreciate you guys coming back. We were supposed to do it last week. I had some stuff going on, and we had to push it back to this week. But Doug was terrific about that, as he always is. Love Doug and his work. Just a terrific guy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us again this week. If you're finding us for the first time, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. Really helps us out. Our website is meistercon.com. You can find 822 episodes, audio and video versions on there currently. And we add to it almost daily, definitely weekly, but we're pretty prolific, tend to put out about 4 episodes a week. So definitely check that out, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.